Hi, and welcome to the Boat Princess podcast. My name is Nicky Vaux, and I'm your host. I am a boat owner, a marinas owner, an international conference presenter, and a huge advocate for boating. I'm sharing the stories from every nook of the boating industry with the intention of encouraging more women to join me and for more women to get behind the helm too. I want to share the experience and opportunities of boating, of the boating industry, and I want you to join me as I bring the conversations and answer all the questions you've had. Boating is not just for the glamorous and rich and famous. It's full of beautiful and interesting people making the most of our natural environment and getting out there, enjoying the waterways. So, let's set off the lines, take over the helm, and escape to the world of boating. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Boat Princess podcast. I am here in London at the moment, and I have got a great guest with me with an enormous amount of experience in this industry to discuss with us. He is Joe Lynch, the CEO of Icomia. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Look, I looked you up on LinkedIn, as one does these days.
Yeah.
Easiest way to research anyone, right? And you did a Bachelor of Science in Physics. Now, we were discussing this the other day at a careers night. You know, if you want to go into the boating industry, what do you do at uni, or which A-levels do you focus on in the UK, or which HSC subjects you focus in Australia?
Yeah.
And I said, well, no, you just got to do what you think you're really good at, I think, get your good marks at school, and then, you know, juggle it around, because we can change things around so much. So tell me, why did you do physics?
I would say it was a mistake from beginning to end. It was just poor careers advice. It was, as you said, I was good at it at school, and I was at the sort of school where you just did what you were told. I was basically told to go and do it. I wish I'd done engineering.
Right.
Because it's more practical. I mean, it's great. I can demonstrate how big a black hole can get before it implodes under its own gravitational field. But since I've done that, no one's ever asked me that question. So in pub quizzes, I'm useless, really useless. I don't know why I did it.
So, these days you would have changed, because a lot of the kids now, they'll start a uni course and they'll go, okay, this isn't actually what I need to do. I need to do this. And they'll swap quite quickly.
Yes.
Don't they? So would you have done that if you'd had the opportunity?
I think so, if I'd stopped to think about it. But, you know, I can't pretend I ever had a career plan. I just kind of followed my nose. I was interested in it. I found certain aspects of the subject really interesting, certainly the theoretical side of things. But when I graduated and 3 days later had the chance to fly to Greece to teach windsurfing, I didn't have to think about it for very long. It was a really decision that made itself.
Fair enough. So that's how you started in this amazing industry we're in now.
Actually, it goes back further than that.
Okay.
I have to give credit to my mum and dad, who, when I was about 6, my dad turned up and he'd bought an Enterprise sailing dinghy, which is a 14-foot long GRP boat that you tow behind the car.
Know them well. Blue sails.
Blue EK 18192, named after my sisters, Susie Claire. And he'd never done any sailing. Family had never done any sailing. He bought the boat and a book about sailing, put 3 kids, mum and probably a dog, at least one dog, in the boat. And we were very lucky that we grew up in the north of England, close to the Lake District. And in the summer of 76, which was the famous heat wave, every weekend we went up, sat in the boat and worked out how to do it. And I hated it. I just was terrified. It was scary. The water was stingy and it was cold. But over the years, something changed. And after school, I went and became a qualified instructor for sailing, canoeing, windsurfing. And after university, there was no jobs going that required cosmology, astrophysics, quantum gravity. So I had the chance to go to Greece to teach sailing and fell into this industry.
Wow. Okay, so sailing was literally beaten into you.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It was the choice of either sit in the car all day or sit in the boat. So we did that, and I still can still picture the boat tipping over and me thinking that's the end of the world.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah.
Dad and I used to sail a GP14 together. So we sailed against the Enterprises.
Very good, yeah.
And, that whole, he's sticking me out in the water while he just sat at the back enjoying the tiller.
That's right.
And then I'm getting splashed with this freezing cold water.
Yeah. Yes. Bizarre sport. But there's something changed over time. I think partly at school I was never any good at the traditional sports. Far too small for rugby. Couldn't throw, catch, run to save my life.
Yeah, me too.
So I think the water sports gave me a bit of an identity, something to focus on. After leaving school, I became qualified. And after college, I had the chance to go and work in Greece and Turkey, which I did for 6 years.
Fantastic. So in Greece and Turkey, what were you doing precisely?
I was a qualified water sports instructor. So I started off teaching people on holiday. It was a sailing holiday program. And as the seasons went by, I ended up being a senior instructor, then a centre manager, then an area manager, responsible for running significant teams of people, several resorts, flotilla operations. And of course, in the winter, I had to do the cliche and go into the mountains and be a ski guide as well. So I was living the life for many years.
Yeah, pure leisure industry.
Pure leisure industry. But it's interesting. I think, people used to be very jealous, understandably. Some people would almost patronise the industry. But then you say, well, hang on a minute. I'm responsible for a team of, say, 9 staff, 40 guests, all aspects of their happiness, but also the safety, the budgets, the local legislation, rules and regulations. You grow up pretty quickly and you realise that it's a job with huge responsibilities. But also, and I think this is probably the reason for my passion for the industry, you see the positive benefits of it. Yeah. I remember seeing people absolutely frazzled when they come out on holiday, and teaching them to windsurf was, for them, that was the most important thing for them to do. And then by Wednesday, on the third day, you see people just slow down, maybe fall asleep after lunch, start to be friendly and happy and laughing. And you just realise this is the holiday, this is the distraction. We call it, the blue frame of mind, the blue minder now. And you could see the benefits that at this time on the water was having to people. And that even now, I still get a bit goose pimply thinking about the people that we made a really positive difference to.
Yeah.
And I'm also really proud of the people I worked with and helping them develop. And we've all gone off to different industries and different roles, but we still meet up and we still draw on those experiences that we think, oh, do you remember that night when? And you think, well, ever since then, nothing's fazed me. And you've learned at the coalface.
So give us one of those. Do you remember that night when?
I do, but there's a vow of secrecy about that night and several others that I could never share on a podcast.
What goes on windsurfing tour stays on windsurfing tour.
But the friendships I've made, I still friends with those people. I'm very lucky. I still sail regularly with people I met 30 years ago, and we argue like fishermen when we're sailing, and we come back and we're mates again. So there's something special about that time together on the water, I think.
Yeah, and you really love your sailing, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, still.
Yeah, it's I'm very lucky to have this role with Icomia. It keeps me very busy, do lots of travelling. I'm one of those people that can't really sit still and switch off. But if I'm busy looking at a sail or 2 bits of wool for 12 hours crossing the channel, that's all I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
And that's really healthy for me.
Yeah, just explain what those 2 bits of wool are for the listeners that don't understand what those are called.
My job on the boat is a trimmer, which is my job just to, it sounds really silly, to pull in the sail just enough, but not too much. And we have 2 bits of wool that sit alongside the sail that tell you how the air is flowing over the sail. And I just look at those and make sure I've pulled in the sail just enough.
And they're up on the sail, aren't they? So do you get that crane in your neck after you've done it for hours?
Completely. I spend the week sitting on aeroplanes or in an office, and then the weekends looking up, cricking my neck.
They're called what? They're called tellers?
Telltales.
Telltales, that's it. Yeah. So, I remember my dad teaching me, just watch the telltales. You've got to level the telltales.
And keep talking to the driver.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, the helm. I beg your pardon. The helm. Yeah.
So what sort of boat do you sail at the moment?
I'm very lucky that my good friends have a boat called a Sunfast 3600. So it's a fairly racy boat, and we'll race with a crew of 7, 8 or 9, depending on the conditions. And we tour around the south coast of England, a few races a year over to France. Next weekend is the Round the Island race.
Oh, nice.
Which is, if you get the chance to be down close to the Isle of Wight, it's a phenomenal spectacle. Often up to 1,000 boats all racing on the same course. And do you know what's really cool? There'll be Olympic medalists on state-of-the-art spaceship-type boats lining up alongside me on a different boat, and other amateurs and boats of all sizes and shapes.
Yeah.
And it's what a brilliant sport that we can all compete together.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's lovely like that, isn't it? That it does allow, with different handicaps and so on and so forth, it allows that whole mix of people to be there and enjoy what is a fabulous sport.
And there's, water sports challenge Olympic athletes, the fittest people out there, but they also allow people like me to enjoy them.
Yeah.
And people with different ranges of abilities, sizes, shapes, ages. There's a boat or a water sports there for you that you can compete in and enjoy, whether it's racing or just being out pottering. There's a way in for everybody, and that's part of what I love about our great industry.
Yeah, and you don't have to own the boat to be on the boat. Well, that's the
beauty of it. I'm very lucky that I sail with 2 generous owners, but they've always said we need 8 people to race this boat.
Yes.
So if we don't have the crew, we can't enjoy it. And I think that's where we as an industry need to do better at promoting the accessibility of our sport, because you don't have to be a millionaire to go sailing. You don't have to live on the coast. There's water all around the world that's accessible, and there's water sports available at many, many different price points. And I think we should do more to promote that accessibility.
In fact, lots of sailing clubs have often got names up on the board. We desperately need crew for this boat.
Yeah.
And they desperately need crew for the boat.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The club I race at, we have a system called Club Class, where twice a year for a period of 6 weeks, we open up the club for people who have done a bit of sailing or no sailing. And say, come and have a go, because we need fresh people coming into the club. We need people to crew the boats so that the club remains viable. And that works really well. And we have several members of our crew who are Club Class veterans, never sailed before, and they're now racing on the national circuits.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I did think in podcast lists like this, I like to illustrate that voting isn't as elitist as people make it out to be.
Absolutely.
And that we need more people to get involved in it and enjoy it, because it is a fantastic pastime, especially in our current world.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our current world is incredibly stressful and busy and attached to screens, and sitting in an office or sitting at home a lot now. So,
and it's because of it's so accessible. It's a great way of meeting people from different backgrounds, different walks of life, and I really love it when I see the next generation coming through. So we're now a crew of a certain age where some of our children are participating. One of my crew is a 15-year-old girl who races to France, and when she goes back into the classroom, she's got some good stories that her classmates won't have, because she was racing to France over the weekend. And you see the growth in people as a result, the growth in their confidence, their self-belief. It's
resilience.
One of the resilience, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you've been told to go up to the foredeck to change the head sail and there's waves coming over the bow and you've done it, you think, oh, yeah, I can do this.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just one of the many benefits, I think, of time on, in or around the water.
Absolutely. I remember coming back into, and I think I've said this before on my podcast, but I remember coming backing in after seeing the camp for the kids that were competing to go into the America's Cup Challenge. And they were all tidying up the boats and cleaning them all up and putting everything away as it should be put away and all those sorts of things. And I thought, if only every teenager did this.
Yes. And why can you do it on the boat but not when you get home?
Yeah. But I do think it teaches kids so much.
Yes.
So much. Yeah.
Whether you're in an oppie or training to be in the America's Cup, it's the same skills, the same, I think probably like most sports. You learn teamwork, you learn confidence, you learn respect for yourself and for others. and you mix with people that aren't necessarily your classmates at school. It's so important.
Yes. Okay, so you've done your Bachelor of Science in Physics at uni, but you ended up teaching windsurfing. You've got some letters after your name, FCIM.
Yes.
Which kind of lead into more so what you went into after you're doing that windsurfing teaching and so on. Tell me what those letters mean.
So I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, which again was something I fell into, was never a master plan. So I was living the life, summers on the Mediterranean, winters in the French Alps, and it gets to a point where your knees and your liver start to complain and it's time to slow down. And I was very lucky that the overseas tour operator, the sailing holiday company I worked with, was based in Brighton, and they had a job for me. I think my first day's work was sweeping the leaves in the car park.
Oh!
And I was doing that quite happily because it was a job, and the phone was ringing and I answered it and sold a holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it started raining and I didn't fancy sweeping the leaves, I tried to get on the phone and realised I could sell the holidays because I understood them and I understood what customers want. And I fell into the marketing team quite by accident, really helping people describe and understand what the sailing experience was like on holiday. And I think that's probably the underpinning to my career that developed into marketing, was just being able to listen to customers, listen to what their requirements are, and understand what they say is perhaps not quite what they mean, and then being able to develop and explain products in a way that is appealing, which is fundamentally the principle of marketing. Not selling, it's understanding what customers need and explaining that to them. And then I think because perhaps of my science background, I was always comfortable in the data end of marketing rather than the creative design. I can't draw to save my life, but being able to analyze what's working and what's not working, where we're getting a positive return on our investment, where we're not, was, I think, really important to be a commercially focused marketing person. So I just really fell into that, and I was always keen to teach myself more, to read more about the subject, and went through various direct marketing diplomas and ended up in the Chartered Institute of Marketing.
There you go. So then you worked with people like Sunsail clubs.
That's right. Yeah. So I was I've been various commercial directors, marketing directors, MDs for a whole host of what were essentially travel experience companies, but always had a specialist angle to them. So that rather than selling what I used to call a bucket and spade holiday, we'd sell boating holidays. And that would be windsurfing in Greece, yacht chartering in the Caribbean, or what was really interesting, the inland waterways boats, the self-drive boats that you probably saw in Carcassonne on the canal to Midic, Le Boat.
Yeah.
So that was a brand that I created.
There you go.
Yeah, so that was my business for a while. That was part of at the time it was the TUI Group, really fascinating business with operations throughout Europe, and now wider than that also in the States, but a global sales and marketing team, which were phenomenal to work with. That was great fun.
Yeah, because I saw some of those in Carcassonne.
You would have done, yes.
And I posted about them because we actually watched them go up the lock, and then they went in and parked themselves,
That's right.
And
bouncing off each other and bouncing off the walls.
Yeah, they've got fenders all around them and rubbers all around them, haven't they? So that they can literally bounce down the canals, can't they? Yeah.
But we built those as well. They were built in Norfolk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a small boatyard off Norwich. And we built them tough.
Yeah.
For that very reason.
Yeah. But that's great because then people can enjoy the holiday without being worried about.
And you were talking about the accessibility, no qualifications required. We'd give you the training when you turned up, and you were in charge of your boat with your family, going where you wanted, when you wanted. Brilliant holiday. We had some great family holidays doing that.
Yeah, fantastic. And again, builds resilience, teaches you how to cope with each other in small spaces.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So you've done La Boat, you've done Sunsail. Sunsail, I remember going on a fabulous flotilla holiday when I was a teenager with Sunsail.
Yes.
In Greece. I loved it.
Yeah,
it was so good.
I was running, operationally, I was working with the Nielsen flotilla fleets and the beach clubs, and then I was responsible for the sunsail clubs as well. So I've been a bit of a floozy around the leisure, travel and water sports industry, but that's the way of the world. I think you need to keep those regular changes because you learn every new job you have, you learn something and you take that on to the next stage of your life.
And you really do with those sort of businesses because you are constantly problem solving for those clients are having holiday and you've got to make it as pleasant as possible for them. But you're dealing with boats.
Yes, boats and people. Yes, people on the boats, people near the boats. And also you have to remember that, we all work for our leisure time and holidays have become so important to people, quite rightly now. It's the time when you decompress, it's time with your family. So it's an awesome responsibility to be keeping people safe and keeping people happy is really important. But it also, one of the benefits I think it's brought to my role with Icomia is that understanding of I've been at the front line, I've told customers that I'm sorry, your boat isn't here, or you can't go there because it's flooded or there's no water, or, once you've had that operational experience, it means that when you're talking to regulators or governments or research institutes, they trust you because they know that you've been there and you know what you're talking about. I hope. People will tell me if I've got that wrong.
I'm sure they do. But you've also dealt with you've dealt with an incredible scope of people. I mean, the sorts of people that goes on those holidays are often successful in business and therefore able to afford to go on that holiday. And then suddenly they're put on a boat and they've got no idea how to drive it, how to deal with it, and so they're humbled a bit almost immediately, aren't they?
Yes, and some people are happy with that. It takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
But it's so rewarding, and I think I always loved the teaching aspect of it because you can see people develop skills that, to be honest, they don't need to have in their everyday life.
Yeah.
I don't know of any city trader who's ever been asked to carve jibe a windsurfer. It doesn't really matter. But you see them growing in their confidence and their satisfaction is really important. I love seeing junior instructors and new people coming out and learning the skills and seeing them grow and helping their careers develop in different ways, whether it's on the water sports or in the back office systems. That's really rewarding. And I loved making that difference where I can.
Yeah. With unlimited boating, access to thousands of boats worldwide, and everything taken care of, our members enjoy boating without the hassle. That's freedom. Freedom Boat Club, North Sydney and Hunter. Call 02 9457 2000 or email us at curious@freedomboatclub.com. So now you're at Icomia, and therefore presumably you're bringing that love of making a difference and growing a team and developing a team and all that sort of thing to that role now.
Well, I hope so. Icomia is the International Council of Marine Industries Associations, which is an awful mouthful. But we're the organisation that represents marine industry associations around the world. I've been there for just a year now, and it's absolutely fascinating, but at the same time, incredibly humbling. I go into meetings and conferences and I look around the room and I can see there's the great and the good of the industry gathered, and there's me. And everyone's looking at me as if I know everything. And the beauty of Icomia is that nobody's expected to know everything. And the Icomia team is a small team where there's only a handful of us, but we have an enormous network. And the important realization for me was that I'm not expected to know everything about everything. No one can do that. But where we add the value is we can connect the people that do know what other people want to know. So it really is it's a network organization where representing the global leisure marine industry, we have got all of the contacts, and we just need to know who to connect together to make a difference. And that's incredibly rewarding. It's not an organization where I'm responsible for knowing everything. All I can do is connect the people that have an issue with people who have solved that issue. And that's where we add the value. We have a small team who are brilliant at what we do, and we're just arranging events and other ways for people to connect across the world.
Well, I must say that connection I find very strong in the people in ICOMIA. I don't know about you, but when we were in the Congress last week, and we had the evening where we all dressed up in our 60s outfits, and we had the fabulous band, and I felt like I was at a family wedding.
Yes, it is like a global family. And I think that's something about our industry, whoever you are and wherever you work, there is that common theme, that thread of friendliness and supportiveness. I've never seen anybody participate in anything with ICOMIA to get a personal advantage. Sure, you do get personal advantages, but that's not the motivation. The motivation is to give back and to support the entire industry. And as a result, it gets better for everybody. There's no backbiting, there's no competition, or there's nobody trying to prove themselves. Maybe it's something to do with our love of being on the water and the commonality of the people involved. But it's just a really friendly, collaborative and incredibly positive place to work because of that.
I always think there's a fundamental within boaters that we always help each other, don't we? So maybe that comes through into that as well.
Yes. Is it a cliche? People say, it's the law of the sea. You always go to somebody in distress. Now, in the day-to-day work, we're not talking life and death situations, but we do have a strong ethos of teamwork, of crew work. You know, one of the things we always talk about on our boat is if you need help, ask. If you're in trouble, say you're in trouble and we'll come and help you. And I think that goes across our industry, that ethos of let's work together and make our industry better for everybody and our customers, and it will get better for us individually at the same time. But nobody is motivated purely for self, which makes it a very special industry to work in. And that's why I'd recommend people don't go and do a degree in physics. Go sailing, have some fun, and who knows where it'll lead you.
Well, yeah, because there's incredible connections within the boating community, isn't there? You know, with the people here that belong to the Royal Thames Yacht Club, you know, the connections are incredible here. And I think that's another part of sailing. You do really connect with the people on the other boats and the people that own the boats.
Yes, it's a very close community and it is incredibly connected. Yeah, maybe that's why you always have to be nice to people, because if you're not, you'll get found out and your reputation will be known wider.
Yeah, that could be it too, couldn't it?
So it could be, you know, it naturally filters out people that are trying things on for their own personal advantage. But it is, anyone that's ever been involved in boating will know that it's naturally a collaborative, supportive culture to be in.
Yeah. So you've been making some changes at ICOMIA in this first year. Tell me some things that you've really enjoyed implementing.
Wow, that's a good question. The thing that I've enjoyed the most really is learning from my current members. I've really been on a mission to listen this year because, you know, here I am nearly one whole year into it, where there's people been involved in this organization for 40, 50 years. So I need to remember that, come in and listen and learn. And the things I've learned is that ICOMIA's got such a huge levels of respect and gravitas and kudos. And that has to be preserved. You know, we have to continue to be a independent, impartial network of people working for the good of the industry, free from commercial bias, free from political or personal agendas. We're here for the good of the industry. But it's really struck me that whenever we have increased the awareness of ICOMIA, whenever we've boosted our visibility, we've had such a positive reaction. We'd host an event in Singapore, never been done before by ICOMIA. And suddenly we have requests from people in Indonesia, Vietnam, China saying, can you help us? How can we get involved in ICOMIA? Because we believe you can help us grow our industry. So that's been really very exciting. We've also been working hard to make sure that our network of what we call working committees, which are networks of experts coming together to work on a particular issue, I've been working to make sure that they reflect the modern, up-to-date requirements of our industry. So I'm so proud of the fact that we've got the ICOMIA Diversity Committee up and running. We've got some brilliant, energetic, focused, motivated people involved in that.
Including me.
Including yourself. So thank you for your help. Realising that we as an industry aren't as diverse and as representative of society as we should be. We know that the leisure boating industry, leisure marine industry, one of the biggest challenges we face is having the skills in the future. So how can we present ourselves as an attractive, open, accessible industry for everybody to participate in? Because we have a moral responsibility to do that. But we also have the self-serving interest of the next generation of you and me, the people learning in their GP14s, the enterprises going on to teach. Where are they going to come from? And if we don't present ourselves as an accessible, inclusive industry, we won't have those people. So being able to get that focus, that group working so quickly is a great achievement that we're very proud of.
And so this is, I guess, much more in the office than you've been before. However, you do this fantastic little thing where you take a photo of my office for the day.
Yes.
Which I love.
That's kind of you. So I have mixed reviews.
Yeah, because some people were like, oh, he's doing that again.
Yes.
But you've done some amazing travel and met with some incredible people over the last year because of that. What's a couple that really shine for you?
Yeah. What a privilege, to have a job that requires one to travel. I've come from a travel background. I've always been running businesses or running teams with a global network. So that travel is exciting. I'm the sort of person, if I go to the same office every day doing the same task, I get really bored and then get really grumpy and nobody wants to work with me. So keep me moving is really good. Some of the highlights, oh, wow. When I had a meeting at the Miami Boat Show and the only office we could find was a beautiful San Lorenzo motor yacht.
Oh.
And the crew said, here's your office for the day. And I sat in the corner feeling such a fraud. Any minute now, they're going to find me out and throw me off here. I've had meetings in Dubai. I'm looking forward to a trip down to Sydney.
Nice.
And on to New Zealand.
Yay.
Walking around the Monaco Yacht Show. What a privilege to be given access into there to see how that works. But at the same time, for me, it's not the glitz and the glamour and how big the boat is. It's the people you meet. Where the following week, I'll be meeting boat builders from Poland. And then the next week, I'll be meeting designers of yachts on the south coast of the UK. And that is so exciting and so interesting. And keeps the job, keeps me stimulated and interested, which is really nice. I'm not sure I answered your question there at all.
Yeah, but no, you do well. The San Lorenzo one was pretty good. Yeah, that was a good highlight.
Yeah,
who doesn't want to be on a San Lorenzo, right? But it is the people in the boating industry are incredibly interesting, aren't they? And I think and so diverse. Because they're across so many different, even the boat brands themselves are so incredibly different. If you look at a San Lorenzo versus a Viking, they're built for completely different reasons, for completely different markets, in a completely different way.
Completely, yes.
So learning about all of that is just fascinating.
It is, and it's learning, as you say, the breadth and the depth of our industry. Our industry encapsulates designers of the America's Cup racing boats. These guys put NASA to shame with the technology. But it also involves people who build steering wheels for boats in Florida.
Yeah.
And they've got brilliant, vibrant businesses creating a lot of value for themselves and for their communities. Just as relevant, just as important. And for me to be constantly reminded of that variety of people involved in our industry, whether you're an instructor, a designer, a builder, a host, a skipper, a navigator, a harbour master, we're all connected and we all have to make sure that we're working together to support the future of our industry. And that's really exciting.
Yeah. And it's a changing world too, because there's a lot of research and a lot of things going into making boating more sustainable and more.
Yeah.
And of course, ICOMIA, we spoke to Darren Vaux a while ago about that whole Ricardo report that ICOMIA put together. So if anyone wants to hear all the details of that, go to that episode of our podcast. But well, there's actually 2 with Darren about that because it's such a long report.
It is, yes.
But that must be exciting. I mean, Met's Trade, for example, they do that fantastic pavilion where they've got all the brilliant new innovations that are happening within the industry.
Yeah. And again, that's, what a privilege for me personally to be involved in those. Not, I'm in no position to judge or to state facts or to do the work for the research, but to be able to enable that to happen and then to have the responsibility of disseminating that across the industry, because that research would be worthless if it sits in a leather-bound book on my desk. It's really important we take that information and give it to the world so that we can all make informed decisions. And that probably encapsulates the role of ICOMIA perfectly. We'll be the convener of people with a common need. We'll help meet that need, and then we'll disseminate that to everybody's benefit. And how humbling, what a privilege it is for me to be involved in that alongside the brilliant people I work with.
Yeah. And talking of working alongside, ICOMIA is very heavily involved with Met's Trade, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes, we're a strategic partner, a partial owner of the Met's Trade event. And so that's probably one of the best ways of showcasing our industry. It is a trade-only event. It's the trade meeting the trade. So it does get quite geeky. It's not like a consumer boat show where you can have a go. There are no boats in Met's Trade, but it's the biggest coming together of people from across the entire industry, and that's incredibly valuable. And that's why it's so important to ICOMIA to be there and to be involved in those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really great B2B, isn't it? It's a fantastic show. And then you held the World Marinas Conference every other year as well, don't you?
That's right. Yeah. So again, it's a classic example of how ICOMIA works. We just bring together people to help one another. And so the World Marinas Conference is marina operators and owners and marina industry suppliers coming together to have their Davos of their industry. It moves around the world. We have it every second year. Last year we were in Vila Moura in Portugal.
Oh, that sounds tough.
Yeah.
No, it was tough.
It was tough. Yeah. And then in September 2025, we'll be in Venice. So another tough destination to go to.
Boating industry really, it's just
how our industry
sometimes
can work together. Yes. So again, it's all about convening people from across the world to focus on our industry development, sustainability, regulatory framework, and to share their advice and expertise and come together as a community with a common purpose.
But also seeing the expansion of that market. I mean, the Middle East are definitely expanding in the world of boating. That there was a presentation by Neon, wasn't there?
That's
at
right.
the last World Marinas Conference.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see what they're bringing to the industry as well.
What they're bringing to the industry and what they also need from the industry. So we're delighted to have appointed a new director onto the board who represents the Leisure Marine Association from the Middle East and North Africa, a gentleman called Wyndham. He's been heavily involved in the marine industry in Abu Dhabi. He's now moving out to the Red Sea with Saudi. And you see how, and this is again is part of the joy of being involved in ICOMIA, every region has its own phase of development and therefore its own requirements. So we've got some regions, North America, Australia, Europe, very developed markets. We've got other parts of the world, Middle East, expanding enormously quickly and needing the right frameworks to keep the industry sustainable and safe, and desperately looking for help from the established markets. And then we have other regions where the leisure marine industry is only just starting to crystallize. I was very fortunate to be in Korea back in, I think it was the springtime, where we formed the Korean Marine Industry Association, first time ever.
Wow.
To support the development of the leisure marine industry in a market where it's entirely new. So we have to understand the conditions in every particular region and use ICOMIA's resources to support them according to the help they need.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it would be fascinating having all those different levels of needs across the country. And also the clients are completely different across the world, aren't they? What the boater in America is completely different even to the boater in Australia.
Completely different.
And yet they're fairly similar countries in lots of ways, but the boating and the way they go boating and why they go boating and where they go boating is completely different. Completely different
for geographic regions, whether you're on lakes, the ocean, but more fascinatingly, culturally different. I was talking to somebody recently and he said, we've got huge demand for this, but we don't have the boating culture. So we don't have the skills that have been passed down from grandfather to granddaughter. We need to find a way of getting those skills into the industry because we're completely new here. There is no culture of boating. And that's a really fascinating challenge to help people with.
Because some cultures don't go swimming, let alone boating.
That's right.
Do they?
Yeah. So, there was a really good case study recently where the one community didn't have a boating culture until they started to teach the fishermen's children how to sail. And then the fishermen saw that and wanted to get involved because to them, the sea had been a place you go to harvest food and make money, and that's it. And it was a complete revelation to go to sea for fun.
Yeah.
And it was the children playing around in sailing dinghies that made them realise, there's something in this. We want to get involved.
Yeah, that's so good. So you really have come from, the baseline of what boating is all about. You were teaching people how to windsurf, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that is it's a very simplistic way of getting into the whole boating. You can hire a windsurf anywhere, can't you?
Yeah.
Near the water, usually. And and so how does it feel for you in your career, having come from, that real baseline of this is how I'm going to get people onto the water, to now being the head of a worldwide sort of association that is dealing with so many different markets? That's exciting.
Oh, it's an incredible privilege. And I wish I could say it was a master plan. I wish I could say it was charted out in front of me. I get teased that at the weekends I go boating and talk about boating, and during the week I talk about boating. But I think it feels like a natural fit, my personal passion for boating and all things associated with the water, but also the commercial or career skills through marketing, being a communicator, and through commercial operations, understanding that to add the value, to be able to provide support to our industry, we need to be a commercial organisation as well. But realising that the commerciality isn't at odds with doing good for the industry. And I learned this in various membership organisations in the charitable sector I worked with or consulted for.
Because you were with the YHA for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, the Youth Hostel Association, which is a phenomenal organisation to be involved in. And that was my first experience of a membership organisation. And I've since went on to support other membership organisations. And one day I'll write the book when I get time about how you apply commercially focused strategies in organisations that don't exist to make a profit. They exist to support their members, which is ICOMIA's purpose. Few people know we're a not-for-profit organisation. We exist to support the industry. But to do that requires resources, and those resources have to be earned and gathered. and being able to apply commercially focused strategies that depend on communication in a not-for-profit organisation is fascinating for me personally, a great privilege, and something that I think more organisations need to appreciate the value of, or more people need to appreciate the value of.
Yeah, because you really have to hone in on looking after the members.
Completely that.
Yeah.
So every pound we spend, every day, every flight, every train ticket has to be justified in the, who am I adding value to by doing this? How will this help the industry? How will ICOMIA become more visible and therefore have more members supporting one another?
Yeah. And in fact, that's why the board that's all volunteer positions, isn't
Completely.
it? Yeah.
Yes. So we're very lucky to have a board of the great and the good of the industry giving their time voluntary, travelling around the world at their own costs to support this association that exists to support the industry. It's very, very flattering and humbling when you look around the boardroom and you think, wow, as I said earlier, all these important people are here, and me.
But I think that's part of your lovely character, though, Joe. You've got this you're actually incredibly good at what you do.
Thank you.
But you've got this very humble, I guess, curious, continuously learning approach to it, which I think is the ultimate sign of a good leader.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you do that.
Or maybe going full circle, maybe it's the scientist in me, that endless curiosity. Keep asking why. Why are we doing that? Why is that happening? Why do they keep asking that question? And for me, I'm always energized and motivated when I'm learning something. If something becomes easy, it's boring and I'm not interested in doing it. Just ask my family. But if there's an opportunity to learn and to make a difference, wow, that's very energizing.
Yeah.
And it is, like any membership organisation, as soon as we start preaching to members, that's not what a membership organisation is. We have to be the glue that holds the people together and listening to what their needs are, not what we think they want, but what they tell us they really want us to focus on. And that's the way we add value.
And communicating that continuously, which of course is your skill. So another one of your
I'm very
skills.
lucky that I have a very good team of communicators that do that for me.
Yeah.
But it's yes, it's what a great privilege to be in this role within this organisation.
Yeah. So what would be your dream thing you'd like to achieve with ICOMIA?
Wow. The dream thing I'd like to achieve with ICOMIA would be, we need to be bigger in order to meet the needs of our industry. We feel like a startup business that's going to grow very rapidly. And so we need to find a way of adding value to our members and to our industry that brings with it a commercial return so that we can do more for more members. And we still, we're a small team dependent on a few of us traveling a lot. We should be really a global network of people. If I can't think of one single project, there's no one thing that's the main goal or aspiration other than being known globally for supporting our industry globally, whatever that looks like in that particular region or area.
Yeah, because it's been fairly Eurocentric in the past, hasn't it, ICOMIA? So
I think so.
Yeah.
But, we've recently hired the brilliant Sue Lin Chia, who's based in Malaysia, who knows everybody and everything about boating in Asia. And she's already made a huge difference to the organisation because we are now active and visibly active in that region and developing new relationships, new memberships, and new requirements that we can add value with. So that's really exciting.
And your current board, I guess, has expanded to, you've got your president who's Australian and your vice president who's from the US. So that's a fantastic expansion as well, isn't it?
And we have representation from the Nordics, from Western Europe, from the UK, from the Middle East, from Singapore. We're really proud and deliberately chosen to get a global spread to our board so that we remain accountable to and representative of our global membership.
Yeah. And while we're on the subjects of dreams, you love your sailing. What's a personal dream for you in that space?
Well, I'm still waiting to be called up to help drive one of the AC boats, but I am available that weekend in Barcelona if anybody gets poorly
Fantastic.
or needs a help.
I must say, my experience on Comanche for me, which is a Sydney towboat, of course, 100 feet long, within Murray on the helm. Oh my goodness, that was like mind-blowing for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, would that be...
That would just be awesome. I would love to be on an IMOCA charging around the Southern Ocean at 35 knots, your hair on fire. But I'll be honest, when it got dark and cold, I probably want to get off and have a hot shower and a cold beer and start again in the morning. So
they're not very comfortable, those boats.
Complete respect for those people that do it day in, day out on their own. You know, they are made of different stuff to me.
Yeah.
For me, really, I know that the Olympics have probably passed me by now. Just love having days on the water with family and friends where we're having a laugh, racing or sailing reasonably well, but mainly just using that blue space to make connections with friends and family just because it's such a lovely place to be.
Mm-hmm. So anything else you think we need to share about Icomia or about you, about...
Oh, wow. Yes, I suppose, I mean, thank you for this great platform that you're giving me to speak to all of your audience. I'll unashamedly plug Icomia. We're always looking for new members and new partnerships. If you are out there thinking you'd like to be connected to a global industry, then please get in touch with us, whether you want to become a member of Icomia or a sponsor of Icomia. We've got the connections that are incredibly valuable, and we're looking for people and organizations to help us on our mission. So please get in touch with me through your podcast, through my LinkedIn account, through icomia.org. Get in touch with us. Let's see how we can help.
Yeah, so Joe's very easy to find on LinkedIn. You just put in Joe Lynch, Icomia, and bing, there he is.
And then you get tormented by my office of the day feeds just to wind you up when you're sitting on a train to go to the same office in the middle of a city in the UK somewhere. You see me gallivanting around on boats in some sunny corner of the world. I don't think it's making me any friends.
I don't know. Those of us who are in it totally understand it and love it. So, it's been really good talking to you, Joe.
Well, thank you for making the time for me.
Yeah, pleasure. So, icomia.org. Anything?
Icomia.org.
Icomia.org is the website. There's also your propellingourfuture.com site.
That's right, yes. That's the microsite we use to collate all of our information about decarbonisation of the industry. We're still in the foothills of that project. We've got so much work to do there. But you'll find it all. If you come to Icomia, just search for Icomia, you'll find us, and we'll direct you to all of the content you need. If there's anything you need you can't find, get in touch with us and our team will get back to you straight away.
Fantastic. Thanks, Joe. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
There is an executive summary available to anyone. We have a website called propellingourfuture.com on there, and that's got a lot of detail in it. It'll actually show you the comparative LCA carbon of the 9 different craft types. So that's a really great place to start to actually get an understanding of it.
That's great. That site, propellingourfuture.com, will continue to be a resource for both the boating industry and legislators to see what the boating industry is doing to make change and propel into our future. I hope you enjoyed that episode, everyone. We'll see you on the water soon.